Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Pappinger. I'm with the Connecticut Department of Transportation and Project Manager for State Project 135-346, Auxiliary Lanes Resurfacing and Safety Improvements on I-95, which will take place in the city of Stamford. This is the virtual public informational meeting for the project. This meeting is a live virtual event, and a question and answer session will follow the formal presentation. I'd like to bring your attention to the project email, dotproject135-346@ct.gov, and the project voicemail, 860-944-1111. Email or voicemail questions or comments can be submitted through the end of the public comment period, which ends on May 12th, 2022. I'd also like to point out the project webpage shown near the middle of the screen, portal.ct.gov/DOT Stamford 135-346, which includes general project information, plans, and information on how to get in contact with the department with any questions or comments you may have after the conclusion of this meeting. A recording of this presentation will be posted after the live event within a few days. Closed captioning, including non-English translation options, will be available at that time. There are 3 ways to communicate with the project team during today's question and answer session. You may email questions to the project email address dotproject135-346@ct.gov. You can call and leave a voicemail at 860-944-1111, or you can use the Microsoft Teams live chat to ask questions. A moderator will post any questions or comments to the MS Teams question and answer chat, and we will answer your questions after the presentation. The public comment period again runs through May 12th, 2022. If you're unable to post questions or comments tonight, they can be sent to the project email address or phone number shown above. The department has established a survey to solicit feedback on today's meeting, and we'd appreciate your feedback. There's also civil rights information available. A link to both the survey and civil rights information is available on the aforementioned project webpage for your convenience. And I'd like to state that no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. I'd like to introduce the project's design team. The Department of Transportation is represented by Michael Calabrese, the Division Chief of Highway Design, Sebastian Canamella, Principal Engineer, myself, Jeff Pappinger, Project Manager, and Serge Niculin, Project Engineer. We're joined today by the team from GM2 Associates, the department's design consulting firm for the project, represented by Tony Margiotta, Project Manager, Ryan Allard, Highway Design Lead, Ron Sacchi, Structural Design Lead, and Colleen Jost, Highway Design. With that, I'm going to pass this over to Tony Margiotta and his team at GM2 for the project presentation.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you, Jeff. Again, my name is Tony Margiotta, Project Manager with GM2 Associates. We're a regional engineering firm headquartered in Glastonbury, Connecticut. Tonight's agenda will cover the following topics. First, we'll discuss a general project overview. We'll get into the purpose and need of this project. And we'll also go over the existing conditions, proposed design. We'll discuss construction overview, and then we'll wrap it up with the schedule and cost. And then we'll close it and open it up with the questions and answers. Again, as previously presented, there are 3 options noted to submit your questions through the project email, voicemail, and the webpage. Next slide, please. So again, we're here to discuss State Project 135-346, which entails auxiliary lanes between exits 6 and 7, both northbound and southbound, pavement resurfacing, and safety improvements at I-95 in the city of Stamford. I would like to first point out that State Project 135-346 procurement method will be design build. Design build is a project delivery system commonly used in the construction industry today. Instead of separate contracts with the designer and the contractor, ConnDOT selects a design build team to complete the design and construction of the project. This is a good method when time is of the essence and could save potentially up to 1 year in the procurement process. This method also allows the partners to come up with new innovative ideas for how to get the job done more efficiently by using the contractor's strengths. In terms of the project limits for this project, first to orientate you on this graphic, north is up. Interstate 95 is shown in yellow across the middle of the page. Route 1 West Main Street is also shown in yellow at top of the page, and Rippleworm River is shown in dark blue. Our proposed improvements are limited to the I-95 corridor shown in purple. The southern project limits begin at interchange 6, more specifically just north of Bridge 23, which is I-95 over West Avenue, and continues northerly approximately 4,000 feet, just under 1 mile, to interchange 7, more specifically just south of Bridge 27, which is I-95 over Washington Boulevard. This corridor was originally constructed in the 1950s and is classified as an urban freeway with a posted speed limit of 55 miles per hour. This corridor is one of the most heavily congested corridors of Connecticut, with over 145,000 vehicles per day traveling through this important section of Stamford, which is recognized as a national financial center. Next slide, please. The primary purpose of this project is to provide operational improvements and congestion relief. This will be achieved by adding an auxiliary lane between exits 6 and 7 for both northbound and southbound. An auxiliary lane is essentially a lane added between interchanges. Next slide, please. The secondary purpose of this project is to extend the service life of I-95. As noted, the highway was originally constructed in the 1950s, and the underlying pavement is almost 7 years old. It has reached its useful service life and requires pavement rehabilitation. There are also 3 bridges in this contract. Bridge number 24, which is Wilson Street over 95, bridge number 25, which is Fairfield Avenue over I-95, and bridge number 26, which is I-95 over Rippleworm River. These bridges will be brought up to the state of good repair. Work will be maintenance related in nature, spot painting, pavement resurfacing on bridge 26 in particular. Next slide, please. The final purpose of this project is to provide safety improvements, which include, but are not limited to, upgrading of the roadside elements to be MASH compliant. MASH is a acronym for a manual for assessing safety hardware, crash standards, and is a requirement of the Federal Highway Administration. This project will also upgrade highway illumination, upgrade overhead signing, as well as upgrading the IMS incident management system. Finally, this project will be assessing compliance with noise abatement requirements. This project does qualify as a Type 1 project. Therefore, a noise study is currently being conducted, and if it meets the threshold and deemed reasonable and feasible, then noise walls will be included as part of this project. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation to Ryan Allard, our lead highway engineer, who will discuss the proposed design in more detail. Ryan.
Thanks very much, Tony. Again, my name is Ryan Allard, a highway lead for GM2 for this project. And before we get into the design, I'd like to give you a little bit of the lay of the land. So the typical section that you're seeing here, I'll just define the existing corridor. Here you're looking at what the graphic above is I-95 from left to right, and north is facing up, and New York is to the left of your screen. You have the Wilson Street overpass and Fairfield Avenue overpass as well. Down below, you see a typical section. This is meant to just represent roughly what the corridor is, nothing very specific here. So right now there's 3 lanes in either direction, separated by a concrete median, with shoulders to the outside and shoulders obviously to the median as well. There are 3 12-foot lanes in both directions, separated by that concrete median. The median shoulders are primarily 12-foot in width. However, along the outside, it varies slightly, so it's about an 8-foot to 12-foot, depending on where you are in the corridor. A little bit more existing information. Here's the crash data shown graphically. There is a Yukon Crash Repository, which is an online resource that we use in order to determine some of the characteristics of the site as it relates to public safety, operations, and congestion. We took the last 3 years of data from that crash repository, including and up to April of this year. The crash counts for that included 237 total crashes. 73 of those resulted in injury and 0 fatalities in that data set. What we'd like to do then is take that crash data and process it a little bit and understand the characteristics of the site. So what I mean by that is we have 161 rear end crashes, which indicates that there's quite a bit of congestion in the area, a lot of bumper to bumper traffic, so a lot of front to rear crashes. And 53 side swipes. That's the second most predominant crash type in this area. And what that is telling us is there's a lot of lane changes. So you have a lot of merges and diverges where people are either entering the highway or exiting the highway. And it's pretty common for an area like this where you have two interchanges. You can see interchange 6 here and interchange 7 here, not separated by a lot of longitudinal distance. So when you have a lot of people entering and exiting the highway in a very short period of time, you end up with some of those lane change crashes as well. So at the very outset of the project, we wanted to get a better sense of the condition of the pavement in order to increase the serviceability of the serviceable life of the corridor. We want to find out what is the existing condition of the highway itself. So the very first thing you do is you take a digital survey vehicle, which is the van that you see on the left-hand side there, which is taking a pavement condition survey. It's essentially taking a picture of the highway and giving us some orthographic pictures that we can have geo-referenced and use as our analysis for the highway. That's telling us the very surface level condition of the pavement. Next is ground penetrating radar, or GPR. There you're using a vehicle in order to determine and, in order to send a signal into the pavement, into the flexible pavement, which is the asphalt, and determine, and it's going to shoot a signal back to us and tell us a little bit more about the condition of the flexible pavement that's on top of the concrete pavement that's below that. Next, we do a falling weight deflectometer test, which is FWD. What that's doing is, as I mentioned, there is the concrete pavement that's below the flexible pavement. It's giving us a sense of the health and the condition of those slabs. So you're figuring out the health of the slab and the health of the connection between two slabs as you're traveling along the highway. And finally, a subsurface exploration. What we're doing there is taking actual physical samples of the highway and using that to corroborate or fine-tune some of the data that we found earlier on. So now I'll get into a little bit of the project scope. So what are we doing in the area? So here you're oriented in the same way that we were looking at before. 95 is left to right on your screen, and towards the left-hand side is New York, and north is sort of kind of facing up. First, as I mentioned, we're going to look at the concrete pavement slabs and the joints, and using the data that we found and determine where those repairs are going to be necessary. There is a profile adjustment that's necessary underneath the Wilson Street Bridge. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as to why that's happening. Roadway cross slopes. So anywhere that maybe some overlays that happened over the course of a period of time have reduced the design speed of the highway itself, we're going to try to bring those back up to DOT standards. Drainage improvements throughout this area. We are doing some widening as well as cleaning of the existing drainage network. Median illumination. Right now there's illumination on the outside. We're going to move that to the median as wherever possible. We did mention the new auxiliary lanes. So one auxiliary lane for each bound. So where there's an existing 3 lanes, now there's going to be 4. And bridge repair rehabilitation. There are 3 bridges within the corridor. And roadside safety improvements. Tony mentioned MASH earlier, so any roadside safety, which is going to include any barrier or metal beam rail. New signing. All signs in this corridor are going to be replaced. And anywhere that a noise wall is impacted by the widening that's happening, this is specifically to what you're looking at there, is on the north section of this corridor, and we'll go into a little bit more detail of that as well. So I've given you the lay of the land with the existing condition, and now I'm going to get a little bit more into the proposed section. The graphic located above is actually showing the 4-lane section that we discussed. So it's the 3 existing lanes plus the auxiliary lane in either direction. 95 is left to right. Again, you have north facing up and New York to your left-hand side. Here you see the 1, 2, 3 lanes that were existing, plus the auxiliary lane, plus a standard outside shoulder, 1, 2, 3, plus the auxiliary lane on the other direction as well. So when we were first deciding if we were going to add these auxiliary lanes, we did a traffic analysis. So this traffic analysis resulted in us finding that there is a reduction in upstream delays. So that means if you're traveling northbound back towards New York, you're going to experience less delays without this bottleneck that's occurring today. You're able to maintain those mainline speeds, so the highway speeds going through this corridor are going to be able to stay at a safe speed. And this is primarily due to what I was talking about earlier, where you have, in the existing condition, you have a lot of travelers coming onto the highway and exiting the highway and having to merge into that outside lane. You no longer have that condition with an auxiliary lane. You have a longer, safer longitudinal space in which to get on or get off the highway. I'll talk a little bit more about the construction now. So along this corridor, if you're familiar with the area, there's a lot of rock outcropping along this outside. You can see the rock outcropping here. This climbs very steeply on either side. So in order to widen the main line in both directions, there is going to be some rock excavation there. All of that work will happen behind barrier. We're not planning on closing any lanes during daytime operations, so you won't be impacted during your daily commute. Any lane closures would happen at night. So I alluded to a profile change that's necessary as a result of adding the auxiliary lanes, specifically on the 95 northbound direction. So there's a picture here on the bottom right-hand side, and you can imagine that you're right where my laser pointer is here, looking in the direction of traffic underneath the Wilson Street Bridge. So the reason why a profile adjustment is necessary here is, as you can see, the bridge itself is going down as you go from left to right, and the roadway itself is coming up as you go from left to right. So you end up with a minimum clearance and under clearance here that we would be impacting if we wanted to add the auxiliary lane to the outside, because we're not going to bring this down. We're actually going to continue this along the same cross slope as the 3 lanes here, just for added safety and to make sure that everybody can maintain the speeds that they need throughout this corridor. So we're widening along that high side, and in order to maintain the underclearance for that, rather than jack the bridge up, we're going to lower the roadway beneath, which is less impactful for obviously the neighboring community. So I did mention concrete pavement repairs. Here you're looking at some typical concrete pavement repair construction that's happened out in the field recently. This work is going to remove all of the asphalt pavement that's currently out there. So we're going to mill that down and expose the concrete pavement that's below. Then you're going to get a really good sense of the condition of that concrete pavement. So we did take a lot of testing earlier on, where we did the GPR, the FWD, in order to determine the condition of the concrete slabs. But as soon as you get the asphalt off of that, you really understand the nature of the work that's necessary. So we would do our repairs after that, after the asphalt is removed, and then add a new layer of asphalt on top of that. All of this happens at nighttime, and if there are any detours or if there are any lane closures, that's going to happen during off-peak and very short-term periods. There are 3 bridges within this corridor: Bridge 24, 25, and 26. Those are the Wilson Street Bridge over 95, Fairfield Avenue over 95, and 95 over the Rippewan River. Some of the scope that is happening on these bridges, there's going to be some barrier, there's going to be some roadside safety to protect the bridge elements. We are widening towards abutments and also just increasing the standard safety of the area. Some steel maintenance of the overpass bridges, as well as some overlay of Bridge 26. Talk a little bit about the drainage in this area. So there are some drainage concerns in a corridor, or any corridor that's of this age. A lot of the metal pipes have reached their serviceable life, or they are beyond it. So we are going to take a look at those. A lot of them are full of hardened sediment, and as you can see in the picture below, it's a bit more than just sediment. and a lot of the catch basins in the area are deteriorated in some state of disrepair. So as we're looking at that, some of the proposed drainage improvements would be to obviously clean any of those pipes as necessary, any of the catch basins as well. New catch basins where required. We are widening at either side of the highway, so if there's a catch basin at the current edge of pavement, there's a new edge of pavement, so we need to move those catch basins to the outside. Those are going to be new basins, they're not going to be moved. We would replace or reline any metal pipes wherever that's necessary, and some stormwater quality upgrades in keeping with MS4 guidelines. I mentioned some lighting. All new lighting is going to be installed here, so every light fixture is going to be replaced. Wherever possible, we're going to move that lighting to the new median. And overhead signs. So all signing, as I mentioned, is going to be replaced as part of this project. So if there's overhead sign structures, those are going to be replaced, and new signs are going to be added onto those. And any signs that are attached to the outside of existing structures, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, these are the overhead signs that are attached to Bridge 24, which is Wilson Street over 95. Those will be taken off and added to a new overhead sign structure. So I did mention that there are noise walls in the area. We are impacting one area of existing noise wall. However, for certain projects, it would trigger a noise study. So what you're looking at in the upper left-hand side of your screen here are two policies. The first one is the federal policy. The second one is the state, in determining if there is a noise study necessary for a project. So there are two warrants for that. And the first one being, and it's a pretty easy one, is there federal participation? Is there FHWA approval required, and is this federally funded? I can answer that very quickly and say yes, so we're going to check that box off. Next, is this a type 1 project, and what does that mean? There are numerous options for why this would be a type 1 project, and as we mentioned numerous times, we are adding auxiliary lanes to either direction. So yes, this is a type 1 project. The noise study is ongoing. So we're looking into the area and determining if noise abatement measures are required for this project. That study is ongoing, and we don't know those limits yet. So we will. In terms of staging, I'll just go over real briefly on the staging that's going to happen here as it impacts your commute and your nightly life. The criteria is 11-foot travel lanes, 2-foot minimum shoulders, and these operations, so as you can see down below, there's some milling operation behind some cones. On the right hand side, you can see lanes free with the barrier on either side. If there are any lane closures that are necessary, whether those are for drainage repairs or concrete pavement repairs, or just milling and paving, those are going to happen at night and possibly on weekends, but very short term. And then very next morning, you're going to have all lanes open for you, and so traffic is going to flow freely. In terms of permitting, so in order to attain the necessary permits, for a project of this size, we have to go through various agencies through the state and coordinate those as the project goes. So we will obtain those necessary permits for flood management and construction activities. As the design progresses, coordination will also happen with agencies such as the Coast Guard, Fisheries, and Army Corps. There are no proposed impacts to wetlands or water courses, and there's no impacts to any of the 100-year floodplain. So this project is relatively not impactful environmentally to the area. So that is my piece. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Tony, and he's going to discuss the schedule and costs.
Great, thank you, Ryan. So as discussed earlier in the presentation, the department has selected, this project for a design-build procurement. The design-build team that provides the best value to the state of Connecticut will be selected for final design and construct this project. The DOT will issue a request for qualification in early June of this year. The DOT will then shortlist typically 3 design-build contractors to receive the request for proposals in early August of this year, with final design anticipated to start in the fall of this year. We anticipate construction or shovels in the ground in terms of where you really see actual work in the field, anticipated summer of 2023. We anticipate a 2-year construction schedule. The construction cost is approximately $30 to $40 million order of magnitude. This is a 90% federal and 10% state funding. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Jen Usher from BL Companies.
Thank you, Tony. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Usher, and I am with BL Companies. I currently serve as a consultant liaison engineer for the department. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone for their time in attending tonight's presentation. As indicated, the project is in the preliminary phases of development, and really the purpose of this meeting is to engage the public. We are here to address your questions as well as understand your concerns. That being said, there are several options for you to submit your questions and comments. The first is by email. You can reach us at dotproject135-346@ct.gov. The second is by phone. You can leave a voicemail at 860-944-1111. Please include the project number or location in your message. The project number, again, is 135-346, and the project location is in Stamford. If you have joined us this evening through MS Teams, you may utilize the live event chat function. As a note, this function is only available during tonight's presentation. For those of you viewing via YouTube Live, the MS Teams live event chat function will be unavailable. So you will need to submit your questions or comments using the email or phone options. The email and phone numbers can be found in the description under the video screen. As a note, the webpage link is an active link, but if you wish to send an email, you will need to copy and paste the email link to your preferred platform. I would now like to hand it off to Jeff Paffinger with Condot, who will MC this evening's question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now that we've covered the ways to submit questions or comments, let's get started with the questions that have come in so far. So the first question that we have is a question about what the exact limits of construction are. And Ryan Allard from GM2 is going to cover that one. Ryan?
Yep, if somebody wants to share over me, I'll open up the CAD and I can run through the exact limits. So you should be seeing a CAD view. This is the design software that we use in order to lay out anything from the pavement markings to the 3D modeling, but it's pretty useful here because it can give you an understanding of the lay of the land. So the limits here, this is I-95, the corridor here. New York is to the left-hand side, and it's approximately facing north up. Here you have the West Avenue overpass, I-95 over West Avenue. This is where the corridor essentially begins. The actual limits of I-95 construction happens at the merge and diverge here, but you can pretty much use West Avenue. So the ramps for southbound exit off, which this is interchange 6, I'll say this is interchange 6, this is interchange 7. So here at interchange 6, we are looking at the southbound exit here to West Ave and the Baxter Ave on-ramp to 95 northbound. Traveling north underneath Wilson, underneath Fairfield, and now you have the northbound exit to Greenwich Ave. The limits extend further over to the, there's the bridge, which is bridge number 27 over Washington Boulevard. And the project limits also include the southbound on-ramp from Washington Boulevard onto 95 southbound. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, looks like we have another question that's come in. Somebody asking if there will be any detours associated with the construction. And Tony from GM2 is going to take this one. Tony?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. Again, Tony Margetta, GM2. So there are no long-term detours proposed under this project. There is potential for some short-term detours during the ramp construction, basically the repair of the slabs if the width of the road is less than 30 feet. Those will be just very short-term during nightly operations, off-peak during the 4 to 5 hour night windows. Morning time, they'll be right back open. So there is potential, again, for some very short-term detours for the ramp work, but those will be off-peak periods during allowable limitations of operations. I guess back to you, Jeff.
All right, thank you, Tony. Before we get into any more questions here, I'm going to pass this back over to Jennifer so she can quickly go through again the ways that you can submit your questions or comments to the team here tonight. Jennifer?
Sure thing, Jeff. I'd be glad to. So again, you can submit your questions or comments through email. And again, that's at dotproject135-346@ct.gov. You can also leave us a voicemail by dialing 860-944-1111. We would just ask that you include the project number or location in your message so we understand which project you're referring to. And again, if you're using YouTube, unfortunately, the MS Teams live event chat function will be unavailable to you, so you will need to use that email or phone. If you are, however, using MS Teams, please feel free to use the live event chat. That's actually our preferred platform. I do just want to remind everyone that that is only going to be open for this evening's presentation, and the full comment period actually will extend for a 2-week period up until May 12th of this year. So should you have any questions or comments following tonight's presentation, you do still have some time to get in touch with the department, and certainly can do so again through that email or phone number. And let's see, maybe we have some more questions coming in here. I can hand that back off to Jeff.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. All right, we got another question asking how long construction is anticipated to last? Tony, I believe that you're going to take this one as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. So again, construction will commence in the summer of 2023. We anticipate approximately a 2-year construction period, but 2023 start and 2025 completion. Thank you. Back to you, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Looks like we've got another question in. A question asking if we're proposing any improvements to the ramps at exit 6 and/or exit 7. Tony, I believe this one is you as well.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. So the ramps themselves, the improvements will be limited to repaving, safety improvements in terms of guide rails, and obviously correcting or fixing the pavement and concrete pavement underneath. There are some improvements to at the ramp termini, including improvements to the ADA sidewalk ramps, installing push buttons, and also some potential for adjusting the timing to improve that intersection as well. But again, it'll be limited to those previously discussed items. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Tony. All right, while we're waiting for some more questions to come in, I think I'm going to go back to Jennifer and have her sort of go through how everybody can post their comments again. So Jen, take it away.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. So listen, we just want to, again, just thank everyone for taking some time out of their personal lives and this evening just to kind of connect with us, ask any questions you may have. Definitely, we want to hear the concerns that you may have. You can certainly reach us through email, phone, or if you are visiting us through MS Teams, you can use the live event chat. In addition, I would like to encourage tonight's attendees to take a brief, it's a very brief voluntary post-meeting survey, a link to which may be found at the project webpage. Your feedback is very important and it will really help us improve our public outreach efforts, especially now that we are in this post-pandemic era and we're trying to reach as many people as we can virtually. Hopefully this is a great platform for people, but certainly if you have any suggestions, we are more than welcome to hear them. So when you do that survey, I will just note that you'll have to choose the project number. Again, that is 135-346. It's in a drop-down menu that you'll see. And again, that link can be found on the project webpage. I should give that, I guess. The project webpage can be found at portal.cit.gov/DOT/STAMFORD/135-346. There you'll find the link as well as some additional project information. I believe the email address is on there as well as the phone number. So you should be able to find all your information there. I think we can probably post that in the chat for those of you, again, joining us through MS Teams. If you are joining us through YouTube Live, you will not see that chat with the question and answer session. However, you can contact us using the email and the phone number previously mentioned. And let's see, maybe we have some more questions coming in, hopefully.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Jennifer. We got one more question in asking if there's any proposed work on the local street network. Ryan, I think you're going to take this one.
Yep, I'm going to share the CAD view again, because I think that's the easiest way to give the lay of the land here. So again, we have 95 left to right, New York is to your left and north is up. And I'll start at the southern limits. So here you have West Ave, and you can see the limits of our impact to the local roads are limited to just the termini of the ramps. So as soon as you're off this ramp, you're off the limits of the actual construction of any of the pavement in this area. So West Ave is by and large untouched, as well as Baxter Ave. As you travel north, this is the Wilson Street overpass. So this is Bridge 24. This is the area where I mentioned in the presentation that we're actually lowering I-95 northbound. And the reason why we're lowering 95 northbound as opposed to raising Wilson Ave is because we don't want to impact the neighborhood there. If we were going to replace that bridge entirely, or if we were going to jack that bridge, we would end up causing some right-of-way impacts or other impacts associated with, or just some costly impacts associated with the neighborhood and the local residents in that area. So if we continue traveling north, Fairfield Ave is staying untouched. All the work there is going to be below. And traveling further to the north, here we have Greenwich Ave, and it's the same situation here as it was to the southern ends, where our saw cut limits are going to be confined really just to the end of the ramp. I know this area has been under construction recently, so we're going to try to fit and not disrupt any of the new construction that happened in that area. And it's the same situation here on Washington Boulevard as well, confining our construction limits just to the ramp itself and not impacting Washington Boulevard. And that's it from me. I'll hand it back to you, Jeff.
All right, great. Thank you, Ryan. All right, so as we're waiting for some more questions to come in, I'd just like to point out that the comment period for this project lasts until Wednesday, May 12th. After the conclusion of this meeting, additional comments can be submitted via the project email address, which is dotproject135-346@ct.gov. Or the voicemail box will remain available too, which is 860-944-1111. If you leave a message after the conclusion of this meeting, please reference project 135-346 in your message. There's also going to be a recording of this meeting, including the question and answer session that will be posted to the project website if you'd like to rewatch the presentation, or share it with your friends and neighbors afterwards so that they can become informed about the project. So as we're waiting for some more questions to come in, I think I'm going to throw this over to Jennifer one more time just to go through, how you guys can get your questions to us here tonight. Jennifer?
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it again. So again, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for attending tonight's presentation. And again, we're just in the preliminary phases of the development of this project. And this is a little bit new of a delivery method for the department, but very exciting, a great way to find some innovation as well as save the state some money. So we are really looking forward to hearing from the public on what you want to see, what your concerns might be, and of course, addressing any questions you may have. So those few ways that you can contact us, and I apologize, I know I sound repetitive, but I want to make sure that we're getting this information out to everyone. So if you'll just bear with me, I would appreciate it. So again, those ways that you can contact us are first by email, and again, that's at dotproject135-346@ct.gov. The second is by phone, and again, just leave a voicemail at 860-944-1111. We do ask that you just mention the project number and the location, and again, that's 135-346. That's the project number, and the location is obviously Stamford. If you have joined us through MS Teams this evening, you can certainly use the live event chat. In fact, that is our preferred platform, so we'd love to see questions and comments filling up there. But if you've joined us through the YouTube live event, that function, it will be unavailable to you, so you will need to submit your questions or comments through email or phone. Just as a reminder, the webpage link is an active link that you will see on YouTube Live. But if you wish to send an email, you'll need to copy and paste that email link into your preferred email platform. You will see the email and the phone numbers. They should be found in the description under the video screen there. So, and then finally, I'll just make one more plug. Again, we're trying to do public outreach the best we can. We're really looking for input. We would love to hear from you guys, get some feedback on what you'd like to see as we move into, further projects. So if you can take a few minutes just to take a very brief survey after this meeting, we would greatly appreciate it. That survey is, there's a link there on the project webpage. The project webpage can be found at portal.ct.gov/DOT/STAMFORD/135-346. And again, as Jeff mentioned, the comment period will stay open until May 12th. So you have another 2 weeks. Should you have any questions or comments following tonight's presentation, please send those to us through email or phone. The live event chat actually will close at the end of this evening's presentation. And so with that, I'm going to hand that back over to Jeff Paffinger with DOT.
Thank you. Looks like we do have a couple more questions in the chat. So one of the questions came in via voicemail, is asking how people could be notified of any updates on the projects. And I'd just like to point out the project email address, which is dotproject135-346@ct.gov. That will be active for a while. So any questions that you have after the meeting can be sent to that. And then there is also the voicemail, 860-944-1111, which will remain active after the meeting too. So any questions that come in will get directed to the project team for a response after that. And then we do have one question here asking if there is any proposed work on top of the Wilson Street and Fairfield Avenue bridges. And it looks like Ryan is going to take that one. Ryan.
I will take that one. So here, back looking at the CAD, just because it's easier to look at the bridge and talk about it. So this is the Wilson Street Bridge, bridge number 24. So here, any of the work that's being done to the bridges is, for the most part, being done because of the work that's happening down below. So here, as we're widening towards towards the Wilson Street abutments here, there is going to be some work just to make sure that we're not undermining the abutments or anything there. Doing some minor maintenance, so it's going to be some beam end painting, and there is some utility work that's being done. There's some abandoned utilities that can be removed, and then there's some existing utilities that can be armored and locked into the superstructure that's there. However, the work along the top side is very limited. There really isn't anything that has to be done to the top side that isn't a direct reflection of what's happening down below. So if there is any maintenance to maybe like a joint or something that needs to happen up top, that would be very short duration. However, we are very early into the design phase, so we'll know more about that as we go forward. Thank you.
All right, thanks again, Ryan. It looks like the comments and questions are starting to slow down for a little bit. So if anybody has any last minute things that they'd like to throw at us, please try to get those in as soon as possible. While we're waiting to see if anything else comes in, I'd just like to, again, remind everyone that the comment period for this lasts until Wednesday, May 12th. And after the conclusion of this meeting, additional comments can be submitted by email to the project email address, which is dotproject135-346@ct.gov. Or again, you can leave us voicemail at 860-944-1111. And please leave the project number 135346 as a part of your message so we know which DOT project that's the message should be directed to. Also, a recording of this meeting, including the question and answer session, will be posted to the project website if you'd like to rewatch the presentation, or if you know anybody else who'd like to see it that wasn't able to make it out today. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this evening for the presentation and question and answer session. The Department of Transportation values your input on these projects. And with that, I'm going to say thank you and good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Good night, everyone.